Today I'm going to give you, I'm going to talk about parenting adult children. I already got some amens. I ain't even said nothing yet. You're like, all right. Parenting adult, and so this message is for everybody. So if you're a teenager about to be an adult child, you need to hear it. If you're not a parent yet, you need to hear it. If you're the adult child, you need to hear it. So I'm gonna give you today 4 ways to become a porch-like parent. All right, 4 ways you can become a porch-like parent. You know that old Motel 6? What do they say on Motel 6? Oh, y'all know what I'm talking about. Y'all are awake for losing an hour of sleep. We'll leave the light on for you, okay? So you need to be that parent that leaves the light on. Listen, y'all, parenting is not easy. I know I have 3 amazing kids. They are amazing, and we're going to write a book on parenting at one point. Then when they hit teenage years, we changed our mind and realized we didn't know what we were doing exactly. But I have an amazing family. If you don't know my family, I want to introduce them to you super fast. And no, I'm not paying them for putting them on the screen. But this is Megan and Anton. So Megan's my oldest. And then Emily, so that's Anton, her husband. And then Luke and Emily, they're in Oklahoma. They live around Tulsa. They're in ministry up there. And so little Ava. And then my smoke shop wife, my smoking hot wife, Amy. And little Parker and Judah, which is Megan and Anton's. And then we have our newlyweds, Kai and Kristen on the side there. And so we have an amazing, amazing family. And yes, we are parenting adult children, and it is not easy. There are some things that I wish I would have kept my mouth shut on, and I would have learned how to respond to some things that I didn't respond to. And so I want you to know today, it's not easy to do, but I want to give you this, all right? So if you're a note taker, and write this down. If you're not a note taker, write it down anyway, because this is a word for you. I want you to get this today. The key to parenting adult children is connection, not control. If I had a chair, I would have sat down. If I didn't like this mic so much, I would have dropped it right there. The key to parenting adult children is connection, not control. We shift our parenting out of controlling them to more of a counselor position. And it's not easy, man. When we dropped Megan. Megan is she's on a race this morning. Actually, she's running 13 miles for 20 miles. Sheesh, y'all pray for them, bro. I think Amy Armetta's there too. And ain't nobody even chasing her. I run for 2 reasons. Somebody's chasing me or there's bacon in another location. That's the only reason. So she's running this morning in a race. But Megan, when she was 18, she went off to college. And so we had to drive her up to Birmingham, which is about 8 hours away, Birmingham, Alabama, to a Christian college. And so we went and dropped her off. And in fact, before we left, Emily, which is, as you see, they were really close. They're 13 months apart. And they were just like twins, really. And so, I mean, it was so bad. I don't know if Mom and Dad remember this, but we dropped Emily and Kai off at Mom and Dad's house and then brought Megan to college. And it was gut-wrenching watching Emily and Megan just cry it out. It was rough. We get to Birmingham. We unload all of our stuff, spend a couple days with her. And if you've ever done this, y'all, that drive away. How many of you have dropped your kids off to college and had to drive away? So like 7 of y'all know what I'm talking about. Okay, I thought that was going to land a little harder. It's about what you would think it would be, all right? It's terrible, all right? So we're pulling away, and my daughter was one that never left home. Like, she didn't go on long trips other than youth camp. That was it. She was a homebody. And so we're pulling away, and we see her in the rearview mirror, and she's just waving, and we leave our little baby girl on a sidewalk in Birmingham, Alabama. That's a terrible parent, but we had to do it. It was time to do it, and we already paid the tuition. She was going, all right? But it was so tough that my wife for 3 hours said, "Don't even talk to me." I couldn't say a word to her. I couldn't even look at her. She was just, it was hard. Why? We were having to trust her decisions of what she was going to do. We had no control over, and we couldn't protect her. Parenting's tough. Emily, the middle child, the one in the middle, man, she's a terrible driver. Well, maybe not now. I haven't ridden with her in a while, but she scared the mess out of me. Just straight up scared me to death, and so she was tough. You know, it was tough. It was tough parenting our kids and you know, just letting them go, you know, just watching my son learn how to drive and pack way too many kids in the truck legally to do that. And so we had to pull them out, put them in our car, drive them out. It's a whole thing. So parenting, it's a tough thing to do, especially as they get older. Y'all, when they get older, it gets even harder, and I thought it would get easier. How many of you today thought, you don't have to raise your hand, but how many of you thought that once your kids got to be 18 or 20, it was going to get easier? It gets harder. And here's why. Here's why it gets harder. Because when your children are little, you hold their hand, and when they are grown, you hold your breath. That's what it feels like. I thought it would get easier. And it just gets hard because my role has changed. Now, thankfully, the Bible gives us some tools on how to handle this. And if you haven't ever seen it before, it's actually in Luke 15. So we're going to read the Prodigal Son this morning. So if you have your Bibles open there, Luke chapter 15. I'm reading out the NLT. If you have your phones, click there. I really want you to see this. It's going to be on the screens as well. But Luke chapter 15 gives us some tools. I'm going to give you 4 ways you become a porch-like parent, that you can just be the one that's always inviting them home and always be having an open door. We see this in this parable. Jesus tells us parable, so he tells us a story about a lost coin, that they tear the house apart and finally find it. And then he says, to illustrate the point further, Jesus told him this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son had told his father, I want my share of your estate now before you die. That just, all kind of love up in that statement. Before you die, give me my money. So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings, moved to a distant land, and there he wasted his money in wild living. And about that time, his money ran out. A great famine swept across the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into the fields to feed the pig. The young man became so hungry that even the pods that he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one gave him anything. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, Father, I have sinned both against you and heaven. I am no longer to be worthy to be called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant. Verse 20, so he returned to his father's home, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. He ran to his son. He embraced him and kissed him. And his son said to him, Father, I have sinned against both you and heaven. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. And I want you to notice that he didn't get to finish his statement, because verse 22 says, but the father said to the servant, quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him, and get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet, and kill the calf that we've been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast, for my son, the son of mine, was dead. Now he has returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. So the party began. Now, that's a great testament, a great story on how to parent an adult child. There's 4 things that I see, and there's many more, but I'm going to show you 4 today that I see in here, because I think sometimes we get caught up in just trying to win a discussion with our teenager or our 20-something-year-old. Just to give a little, you're that I told you so parent without saying I told you so, like to their face, but that's what you're thinking. But I want to tell you this morning, and this is with teenagers too, y'all, you could win the argument and lose the relationship. You could win the argument with your child, but lose the relationship. And for some of y'all, like, yeah, it's worth it. Like, I'm right. I want to show that I'm right. It's not worth it. You could lose the relationship over winning an argument. And I'm going to tell you right now, I know people who've walked on that road, and it is a lonely road to walk. So I'm going to give you 4 things this morning. If you want to be that porch-like parent that's just welcoming and loving your kid, and listen, if you hear me, what I'm saying sounds like I don't discipline, that's not true. Discipline's a big part of parenting. But when you have adult children, you can't discipline anymore. You have to let consequences do that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But here's the first thing that you have to be able to do in this day and age, and it's really hard, I know, and that is you got to trust them without tracking them. Got quiet in here. Yeah, just making sure. I'm not even going to ask you to raise your hand, because I know 80% of y'all are tracking your kids, all right? I know that you are. You got to be able to trust them without tracking them. Look at what it says. This is back to verse 13 of our story. A few days later, he packed his belongings and he moved to a distant land. Now, this guy had financial well-being. I mean, this guy was financially pretty secure. He had a large estate, apparently. He had servants, and so he had money. He could have hired somebody to go follow this guy around. It would have been the very first version of Find My Friends. Okay, this is the first version of that, but he didn't do that. He didn't have somebody going and spying on him or reporting him back. No, he let him go. There's going to be a point where you let your kids go and you don't track every single move that they have. Now, I did some research on this, and I was kind of shocked by the numbers. But here's the numbers that I found on parents that track their kids. And I'm talking about tracking them with GPS. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but there's only y'all in the room today. 67% of parents track their college kids, which I get that. We did that. In fact, when Megan was in college, we would just, my wife would randomly track her at midnight because she woke up to go to the bathroom and was like, let me just see where Megan's at. And Megan's in a park somewhere. Yeah. Okay, she's 19, but still she's in a park somewhere. Well, we had to just go, you know what? We can't even reach out to her because we're not even supposed to know where she's at. Well, come to find out, she was with a group of friends who just needed a break from all the studying they were doing and the big projects they were doing, and they were just going and hanging out and having a good time. And so it's hard to do, but a lot of parents do that still. 67% track their college kids, 42% track their 24-year-olds, and 25% still track their 34-year-olds. Apparently, none of y'all deal with this. None of y'all struggle with this at all. You just let your kids go. You have no idea where they're at. The other day, Megan and the kiddos and Amy went to Oklahoma to see Emily for her birthday. And so, I'm just randomly, as a good dad and a good husband, I'm tracking just to see, hey, how they making it, and all the tires are all good, and they don't have any problems, and they're not stuck somewhere. So I was like, well, I'm in that, and just see what everybody's doing. So I decided to track Kai. I will pay you $5 for this one. So I tracked Kai, and this is what I see. If you can see that. And he didn't have a boat with him at the time, okay? And so I just sent in the group chat, I sent that picture, and I just put, Kai, you good? And Kristen responded with her Life 360 that he was at a house close by here doing some work. But my first thought is, that dude, he's supposed to be working, he's fishing. His boss done brought a boat to work, and they're fishing right now. And then you're like, well, maybe he ain't fishing. Maybe something else is going on. And your mind just goes crazy. We have to get away from that. And it's really hard to do. And I wish I could tell you how to do it. I don't know how to do it. Just delete the app. That's all I can tell you. How many of you track your kids till today, no matter how old they are? Let me see your hand. You got to be on. Don't be lying. You're in the church. You're in the rink church. All right. So I ain't alone. We have to be careful of that. We got to trust them without tracking them. Here's number 2 we got to let consequences connect their choices to their outcomes. You gotta trust them, but then you gotta let the consequences take effect. A parent who takes away the consequences of their kid's actions will never let that kid see what really life is going to be about, because they're just always a helicopter parent swooping in and picking them up and taking them out of danger and putting them back into safety. This is hard, y'all. It's hard to watch your kid walk through stuff and let consequences connect their choices to their outcome. I'm saying this like it's easy. It's not easy. Listen, and if you're a younger parent today, what this means is when you tell them, and when I count to 3 and you're not doing this, then you're going to get that, you better do that thing that you said you were going to do. Because they will call your bluff in a heartbeat, son. They'll call your bluff. So make sure you follow through with the consequences that you say you're going to give your kid. I don't care how old your kids are. You got to follow through when you say you're going to do something. And if they're going through something and they are reaping some consequences, you got to let them reap what they sow. Now, can you swoop in and get them out of jail? Yes, you can do that. But you got to let them feel some pain, because if you constantly swoop in and take away the pain, you're not going to be the parent God called you to be. It's going to be really hard to parent them as adults because you got to let consequences take effect. Listen, if you're still financially supporting your 40-year-old kids, you got a problem. They don't have a problem. You do. You just completely kept them from having any consequences for not working or not budgeting their money. You have to stop removing the consequence. Anybody hearing this today? Are y'all out there? 70. Okay, awesome. The same 7. I know y'all lost an hour of sleep. It's probably the wrong message to preach on losing an hour of sleep. You got to let it connect. And if you don't, you're going to have a real struggle parenting your adult kids. Let's go back to our story. Look at verses 13 through 19. He gets everything together. He moves to a distant land. He wastes everything in wild living. There became a famine about the same time, and he began to starve. So he persuades a local farmer to hire him. And look at this. I want you to see this morning. This is important. He wanted the pods that the pigs were eating, but nobody even gave him any. You know what that's called? Rock bottom. Sometimes the best thing you can do for somebody is nothing. Sometimes the best thing you can do for somebody is nothing. You got to let the consequences have their effect. Now, that's hard to do, y'all. That's hard to do. And sometimes you do need to step in and swoop in. And sometimes your kids aren't telling you anything. I remember when Amy and I were first married. We had 2 girls. We were married in February. Is Amy in here? Okay, February. Yes, she is. February of 98. We had Megan in January of 99 and Emily in February of 2000. So around our 2-year anniversary, we had 2 kids. And so, we weren't making much money. They came and turned our electricity off one time. Didn't tell our parents anything, all right? And my parents randomly showed up with some groceries one day to bring to somebody else, but that house didn't exist they were supposed to bring them to. So they bring them to our house, and they were like, y'all didn't have anything. We don't remember. We didn't know. You ever been poor and didn't know you were poor? We didn't have nothing. Now, we didn't ask for help, but we had consequences to the actions of the job that I had because they were writing me hot checks. And that's what I did. I got out of there. I changed what I was doing. We have to let those consequences hit. This guy hit rock bottom. No one gave him anything. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, at home, even the hired servants have enough food to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go to my father's house, and I will say, I have sinned against both heaven and you. I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Take me on as a hired servant. Something we have to do in parenting. If you want to be a parent, this is Extraordinary Relationships. This is the series that we're in. If you're going to be an extraordinary parent, you got to stay steady in consequences, but gentle in connection. You got to let the consequences hit, but then you need to be there for them. My dad, I've gotten a few spankings in my life, mostly because of my brother, and I'll just say it out loud. He was 98% of my spankings came because he and I were fighting, or he started something, or he made it look like I did something, I didn't do it. He was a terrible influence. And my dad, my younger brother, 363 days younger than me. I have an older brother and younger brother. And listen, like when my dad said, if you do that again, you're getting spanked, guess what we were doing? We were going to pick our own switches. Anybody have to pick their own switches? And if you don't pick a good one, guess what? He's going to get it. You don't want him to, you're going to get that limber one that says, what, like a whip, all right? But you know what he would do afterward? You know what he would tell us? This is going to hurt me worse than it hurts you. That's the biggest lie I ever heard in my life.
Hurts in a different place.
It hurts your heart. It didn't hurt my heart. It hurt somewhere else. One day we got in trouble. The two things my dad you couldn't do to him or around him. If you lied, you were in trouble. And if me and Johnny fought, we were in trouble. Me and Johnny fought a lot. And we fought one day playing basketball, so he had an office at the house. So we go in the office. He said, go in there, wait for me. Well, Johnny shoved a book down his pants. Physics would say don't do that because it's very obvious, and it made a different sound when he got spanked, you know what I mean? And my dad said, son, why'd you do that? I didn't want to get spanked. Dad, so I'm pulling that book out. I'm going to give you 2 more licks for doing it, and 2 more if that book stinks. But we had consequences, and we didn't have to wonder. We didn't have to wonder. The consequences were coming. Y'all, and the discipline is not rejection. The world today would tell you that discipline is rejection. It's not rejection. We got to have tough love without being mean, but we have to have this connection. You got to let the step be steady in the consequences, even as an adult, if you have an adult children, but you got to be gentle in your connection. Here's number 3, and this one's probably going to be the hardest one to do. You got to keep your door open and your mouth shut. You know how hard it is to watch your adult children make decisions you wouldn't make and not say anything? That's hard to do, man. That's hard to do. It's hard to keep your mouth shut. But sometimes in Jesus' name, you just need to keep your mouth shut. In Jesus' name, shut up. All right. Just don't say that thing. Just bite your tongue. And look, I've done it. I've done it with my kids. I've done it with Kai. They just got married 2 or 3 months ago. And so there have been times where he was going to do something, make a decision. I'm just like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. He didn't ask for my opinion. I gave it anyway. I shouldn't have. I should have kept my mouth shut. But you got to keep your mouth shut and your door open. Look at what happened. This is interesting. Go back to our story. Look at verse 20. So the son returns home to his father, and while still a long way off, his father saw him coming. I love this. Gentle in connection. Watch this. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. Now, he saw him while he was a long way off. You know why? Because he was watching for him. And this guy just spent this man's hard-earned money. Wasted it all. And he even asked no questions. He just came up to him. He was filled with love and compassion, and he embraced him. Why? Because his son's presence was important. His son said to him, Father, I have sinned against both you and heaven. I'm no longer to be called, whether to be called your son. He was about to say, can you make me a hired servant? And the dad stopped him in his tracks. And watch what the dad does. But the father said to his servants, quick, bring the finest robe from the house and get a ring and put it on his finger and a sandal for his feet. Let me give you a word right here that I didn't see this until I was studying for this message. Do you notice today that in this story, the dad didn't say anything to the son? Because my first thought, let me go see what the dad said to his son. I told you so. I can't believe you wasted my money. Or it's good to see you, but where's the return on the money that I gave? He didn't say anything to the son. He turned to the servant and said, go get everything ready for the party we're about to have. Sometimes you just need to keep your mouth shut. Sometimes your kid, they know they just made a bad decision. They don't need you helping them relive it. He didn't say anything to his son. He told the servant, and he said, hey, go get everything ready. Let your actions speak. The fact that he went and hugged him and kissed him and said, hey, look, I'm just glad that you're home. That's the atmosphere that he had created. Sometimes we just got to keep our mouth shut and our door open. Here's a truth that we got to get today as parents of adult children. Unsolicited advice usually comes across as criticism. If your kid doesn't ask for advice, don't give it to them. That's hard. Now, this is not across the board. Like, they're about to really do something that's going to harm them. Like, you got to say something. But in general, like, they don't need to know your opinion on certain things, the color of the paint in their house, unless they ask for it, okay? Unsolicited advice usually comes across as criticism. You know why? You're saying, hey, look, I know you didn't ask for it, but let me just tell you what you're doing wrong in this situation. Let me tell you how you should have shifted what you're doing at your job. They're grown people. They got to make their own decisions. And one of the greatest things my parents ever did for me was just let consequences happen. Now, my mom's in the back trying to help. My dad's kind of holding her back because she's trying to help in every way she can. But sometimes helping fix a problem creates more problems. But when you have unsolicited advice, you got to learn how to keep your mouth shut and keep your door open and be that porch-like parent. Here's number 4. And this one's huge. And this goes for every level of parenting. Celebrate their presence. They don't owe you anything. Mom, you good? See, I'm checking on my mom there. You need some water? Here, look, I got you. Here you go, Scott. That's good. That's good being an adult child checking on your mom right there. That was from the Lord. There you go. I didn't spit in it but one time. She don't care. You ever seen Everybody Loves Raymond? In our house, it's Everybody Loves Andy. So it's actually Charlie, my older brother. He gets everything he ever wanted. Like, we get meals that we never get to get until he shows up, and all of a sudden there's cherry cheesecake and steaks and no. My parents were great at just treating us all like we were kids trying to find Jesus, and when we found Jesus, they just poured gas on the fire. You know why they did this? They celebrated our presence. My dad would be super busy, traveling to Houston and going to school and checking on people in the hospital. If you don't know, my dad has 50 years of ministry under his belt, and so he was very busy. But you know what? If we said, hey, Dad, can you throw the football? He came out there. He says he threw more touchdowns than Joe Montana put together in all of his years. And I caught most of them because I'd be the mess out of Johnny every time. What was he doing? He was celebrating our presence. He was saying, you matter. I'm busy over here, but I got time for you. I'm going to tell you, even though he never said it out loud, we knew we mattered. For my mom, we knew that we mattered. We knew that we were in the house and he had one little cough, and sometimes we would fake cough so she'd come in the room and give us some medicine. And anybody ever fake cough to get your mom to come in and check on you? That's awesome. We didn't get to skip school, but we got cough medicine. Celebrate their presence. If you have an adult child and they're wondering, they're the prodigal son, when they come home, they don't have to bring any returns back. They don't have to make sure that the car is all filled up and gassed up and the oil's been changed. No, celebrate their presence. This father didn't ask one question about his money that he gave him, not one. But he celebrated his presence. Look at what he did. He said, let's kill the calf. We've been fattening. We've been getting ready for this moment. We must celebrate with a feast. For this son of mine was dead, but now he's returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. So the party began. Celebrate your kids don't owe you anything. I hear stories of parents that expect their kid to owe them to pay their bills and make sure that they don't owe you anything. Your job was to raise them up and keep them safe and show them Jesus, and that's it, and turn them loose. But some of us are so worried that we got to make sure our kids are doing the right thing and saying the right thing, and we're watching every move they make. Let me just give you a word today. Be the porch light, not the watchdog. Leave the light on for them. Celebrate them showing up. They don't have to bring anything. Now, especially when they do bring grandkids, that's special. You can bring those with you. My daughter knows not to show up without grandkids with her. But be the porch light, not the watchdog. And here's why. Children are a gift from the Lord. They're a reward from him. They're a gift. Just the fact that you have kids is a gift from the Lord. Some of y'all are just like, yeah, but you don't know what my kid's doing. Man, you don't know what they're going into. You know what they're getting into. I don't know. But I do know this. I know the Creator loves them and has a plan for their life. And I know that you can pray for them. We can't control our adult kids, but we can't trust them with the Creator. Pray for them. Live a good life in front of them. Come to church. Go to small group. Live a life in front of them. Say, hey, look, a whole life is not a bunch of money. Having a whole life is not about having a bunch of stuff. A whole life is living for Jesus. And if we would do that, y'all, our kids will see a shift in us. And we're not trying to control them or put anything on them. We're just going to celebrate their presence. Say, I'm just glad you're here. Be a Motel 6 parent. Leave the light on. They don't have to bring anything with them. They don't have to earn it. Just let them show up and celebrate their presence. And y'all, if we would do these 4 things, we'll become porch light parents. If you take these steps and do these things, your kid's going to see a shift, because you can start today. You don't have to wait till next week or next month. You can start today. Say, you know what? I'm going to keep my mouth shut and my door open. I'm just going to celebrate them showing up to the house for lunch today. I'm not going to give them any opinions. I'm not going to give them any advice. I'm just going to say, I'm glad you're here. Watch the shift in your kids. It'll happen if you'll do it.